I want to start a podcast. I hear this all the time. And my first question to those that say this to me is, why? Why do you want to start a podcast? Because I tell you now, it ain't going to be easy. And it's going to be easy maybe for the first 5 or 6. But then after that, reality sets in. You're spinning plates. On the one hand, you're getting guests. On the other hand, you're trying to produce this thing and publish it. And then you've actually got to push this thing out and market the podcast. Oh, God, it's spinning constant plates. And when the novelty wears off and when you're in the middle of the marathon, that's where you are in a dark place and the doubts set in. The pod fade is a reality, and it happens around about 5 or 6. And I would say 95% of the reasons why people give up podcasts is they don't know why they started in the first place. So before you even start a podcast, ask yourself, why? And I'd say to you, you have 3 options, 3 ways you can use a podcast. And none of them are social media. If you're using podcasts as social media, if it's a part of your social media strategy, then you're using it in the wrong way. You'll get to 5 or 6 and then you'll give up. Then you'll sort of say, well, why are we doing this when we could do Instagram or we can get better engagement on TikTok? You'll fail. And you'll fail about 5 or 6 episodes because you'll hit the valley of death when it comes to podcasting. When the doubts creep in and you start seeing alternatives that look easier and probably are a lot less work. The starting point with starting a podcast is to not look at it as social media, but to look at it as communications, and communications being that whole suite of everything a business does. Remember at the beginning, we talked about the 2 problems that businesses face, innovation and communication. So let's talk about communication. That's a $1.1 trillion market. I'm not talking about PR, but everything in which PR sits as well. It's the umbrella. It's A, B, C. $1 trillion A, B, C. A for advertising. B for brand authority. C for community. Or, as they're known in their business department, marketing, PR, and recruitment. That's $1.1 trillion. 650 billion spent on advertising globally. 100 billion spent on PR, 350 billion spent on recruitment and talent retention. That's communications, $1.1 trillion. So what is the problem that you as a business are trying to solve? A, B, or C? Are you using podcasts for the right reason? Well, the right reason is what your business objectives are now. And the way to understand that is really to understand where you are and what kind of business you are, your model. What kind of business am I? So really, there are 3 types of businesses. Let's talk about them. Business number 1 is an agency, which is basically where you have all the knowledge and expertise in your head and you sell that to somebody else. You could be an agent, you could be a consultant, you could be whatever it is, but it's you selling your services. And you may have a team of people helping you doing this, and you may have more people who are selling their services in that team. It's still an agency. It could be highly profitable. Doesn't matter. It's still an agency model. The second type of business is a media business. Now, that's not just TV, but it's any marketplace. Media meaning between, to mediate, where you're selling from A to B. You're taking something from A and you're selling it to B. You are physically taking it across. So that could be in the TV world. I'm taking your attention and I'm selling it to Pepsi. I'm taking your data and I'm selling it to Coca-Cola. That's media. That also could be, for example, an airline or AirAsia in its current incarnation, which is I'm taking insurance from I'm taking the data I'm gathering about these customers and selling it to these insurance companies. I still have to do it physically. It still has to be done by me for somebody else. But all my business is about collecting data. And the third model of business And the final form of digital transformation is the platform, where I'm not physically taking businesses or data from A to B. I'm allowing them to sell to each other in an open market. All I'm doing is I'm collecting data about everybody and selling it back to everyone else. So if you sell insurance to my customers, I don't need to be part of that process. You can sell directly. So that's where, for example, AirAsia steps out of the loop and then just sells the data that it collects about travelers to insurance companies. That's a platform. So there are three models of business to understand. First, which are you? Are you an agency? Are you media? Or are you platform? Because the way you're going to use podcasts are going to be fundamentally different in each scenario, because your business needs are fundamentally different. And this is where everyone comes in and gets it wrong, because they don't understand. They think podcasts are social media, when what we're communicating with people is that podcasts are communications, which sits on top of everything, and it's what you do as a business. So if your goal as a business is to collect data, then use podcasts to do that. So those three models are agency, media, platform. If you're an agency, let's say you're a consultancy, let's say you're one of the big global consultancies, or let's say you're just some small ag tech advisory. Doesn't matter what size you are. Your business is still about selling your authority to your customers. And it's all about you and your relationships with those people. They trust you because, you've been in this industry so long now. I know you. You're an authority. That's great. But the problem with that is you. Like, we can't clone you. We can't take that conversation that you keep repeating and clone it and turn it on with a macro and repeat it to 20 other people. The problem is time. The problem is 24/7. The problem is that now, no matter how much you're going out and meeting people, your story needs to be on repeat. I need to be listening to this whilst you're talking to someone else. And if you're going to be on that plane and sleeping, your business stops. There's no evergreen content out there talking whilst you're doing something else. How do you get the leverage? Well, the first part you start, if you are an agency and that is your model where you are all about authority and your ceiling is the number of hours in the day and the number of bodies you have in your business, you're now in a very noisy marketplace. What was authority once is not authority now. It's only authority as long as you're talking to me. However, the problem is now is that when you're not talking to me, there are many, many other birds in the tree singing to me, and you're not there. And okay, you might be the best consultancy in the world, but these guys are specialists in automation, and I'm going to listen to them. Now you've just lost that work, which is maybe highly profitable. And over time, all that gets left is the unprofitable stuff, because you, over time, get eaten away by all these challenger brands, small, big, from all different angles, coming in and nibbling away at the profitable peripheries of your business. So your challenge is 24/7. You can't clone you. But what you can do is create the conversations that you keep having with your clients and clone those. So for those people who see themselves as an agency, the podcast solution is not about creating social media. It's about starting with content, creating the content that replicates the social conversations that you have over coffee with people and putting those on macro. Because I can listen to you whilst you're doing something else. You're listening to me now on this podcast whilst I'm doing something else. I'm meeting somebody else right here, right now. I'm doing something else. But I'm actually talking to you. That's as near as I can get to cloning as humanly possible right now. Who knows in 50 years? But for now, this is all we have. So if you're an agency, your podcast goal is about creating content to replicate the conversations that you have on a daily basis. If you're media, the challenge is different. You're a two-sided marketplace selling from A to B. That A may be giving you data about their attention, their relationships, or who they are. And I'm selling that to B, who are those insurance companies or those beauty products who also want to target AirAsia customers. So my goal is not necessarily to get hundreds and hundreds of partners. There's a limit with that. I'll get to the limit, and then my goal is to collect data. So my goal now is to become a data company. That's how I go from 10 times valuation as an airline to 100 times like a Netflix or above. My product is data. So as an airline in that media space, I want to create more data. How do I do that? Well, podcasts are a great way of doing it. You can produce lots of data points. You can produce lots of data points about potential products, potential interest areas, and you can collect data about customers and partners. So if, as we already discussed, you're opening up a new travel destination like Fukuoka, I can do a lot of content about Fukuoka fast. And then I can collect data points about who's interested in what and what kind of people are consuming this. And then I can sell that back as advertising real estate to Accor Hotels or Airbnb or the Fukuoka Tourist Board. Data. Podcasts to collect data. That's how I will become a tech company, and I will leave the limitations of shelf space, the physical limitations of my product and my bandwidth, to the world of airlines. The third option, platforms. What if I'm a platform? What if I'm a large SaaS platform and I'm interested in podcasts? Well, your challenge is community. Your challenge is that you're no different from the next guy. Your challenge is your product isn't as a SaaS platform for accountancy, ledger, or books. No, that's nothing different to the next guy. Your challenge isn't the fact you're on the cloud. Everybody's on the cloud now. Your challenge is you're the same as the next guy. So how do you differentiate? Your product now becomes the community. That's what you're selling. You're not selling accountancy software anymore. You're selling community and the experience of belonging to that community. And how do you use podcasts for that? You use community to curate those stories, because stories create belonging. Community, the word comes from commune, to share, and communicate, to share. So it's the sharing of stories that creates a community. And the limitation for platforms is that, well, you're too busy building the platform. Maybe it shouldn't be your leadership telling the stories. Maybe the leadership can get the storytelling started by setting the example and leading the way for everybody else. But long term, the key to growing a community is not about telling the founder stories. It's not about telling the CEO story. That's fine. That's getting us started. But what about all the employees in the ecosystem and all the channel partners and all your tech partners and all your customers? Those are the stories that you need to tell, because that creates the community. That's where you now step out of the loop and you create a platform and you create many data points which you can sell back to your channel partners. So, for example, if your customers are small businesses and small businesses are telling you that one of their biggest pain points is late payments, then basically you're generating a lot of data about the kind of products small businesses want, which you can now sell effectively to channel and tech partners. Tech partners can say, well, actually, we've got a solution that's a little bit like that, that can expedite payments with large suppliers, large clients, I should say. And that's aimed at small businesses. And now I know all these small businesses have these pain points. Well, I already have a go-to-market strategy thanks to this platform. So if you're a platform, your podcast strategy should be about curating community, because that's the product you inevitably sell. And that is, at the end of the day, your barrier to entry. So what I've done is I've outlined how to use podcasting. And if you're using podcasting as a social media tool, you're doing it wrong, because you're wasting the opportunity. Podcasting is communications, and podcasting is a core tool for you as a business to transform, to get to the next level. But to do that, you have to be very clear about what level you're starting from and what level you're getting to. and what you are as a company and what your business's challenges are. And that's what we do when we sit with clients. The first engagement isn't about creating a podcast. The first engagement is a workshop, bringing people together. And I find that the most effective teams to build these solutions aren't necessarily the communications team, or aren't necessarily the PR team, or aren't necessarily the tech team, but somebody from all of those teams, creating a small cross-functional team, a tribe of change makers who can drive forward digital transformation within these companies. So yes, pick somebody from HR, pick somebody from PR, pick somebody from comms, pick somebody from channel partnerships, bring them all together into this small cross-functional tribe of change makers. And that is the team that are going to push forward this agenda and help transform your business and stay relevant and stay competitive in a noisy media marketplace. That humanizes your brand. And that's what differentiates podcasts from all other social media forms out there. And that's what differentiates humans from robots.